Welcome to Breaking Barriers.
Welcome to Breaking Barriers.
Welcome to a journey of resilience and resolve,
where the voice of Afghan women journalists resonate with stories of loss, dreams, and restricted freedom.
In each episode,
we delve into the hearts and minds of those who dare to speak out,
despite the shadows that loom over their future.
We explore what it means to yearn for a silenced past and to hope for an unseen tomorrow.
Join us as we listen,
learn,
and share in the struggles and aspirations of these courageous women.
Together, we seek understanding and foster hope.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking Barriers, Women in Afghanmedia. I'm so glad you could join us today for what promises to be a really important conversation. Today, we have a special guest with us, someone who is making waves in the empowering woman. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dana Harman. Dana, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Fruch, my friend. I'm a big fan of Fruch, so that's why I wanted to come on this podcast.
Thank you. So before we jump into our discussion, could you share a bit about yourself and the incredible work you're doing to support women?
I hope I'm doing good work to support women. So my name is Dana Harman, and I'm a journalist. I went to college in America, and I graduated. I studied Islamic studies, actually, as a master's. And then I started working pretty soon after that as a journalist. And I had a long career in journalism. I spent a lot of time all over the Middle East. I spent time in Africa. I spent time in South America and in the United States. And then for the past decade or so, I've been based in London and writing about European issues. Along the way, I spent some time in Afghanistan. Nice. A couple times with is in embed, if you know what that is, like when you go and you're with the military. So you don't really get to understand or see a lot about Afghanistan, but you are in the country, so to speak. So you see what the soldiers are up to, or what the. So I learned a lot about Afghanistan that way. Then I had an amazing opportunity, and I got sent to do a long piece. So short pieces you spend a couple of days on. A long piece I spent several months on writing a story about the all-girls robotics team out of Herat. You know, that famous team that came over to America and to Europe, and everyone was very impressed by them, and they got some fame. And then the New York Times actually asked me if I wanted to go and write about them. So of course I did. It was really exciting and interesting. And I went and I spent a couple months actually back and forth to Herat and with these girls who at the time were about 16. And I really loved them. There were many amazing young women on that team. I wrote my story. The story was so-so. It wasn't like the story that I most love, which goes to show also that sometimes like experiences which you think are end up being somehow life-changing in a way later for a totally different reason. So the reason was that I kept in touch a little bit with some of the young women that I had written about. And then in August 2021, when the Taliban first came into Herat earlier, and then were coming, right? And then we're coming into Kabul. So they started writing to me, and I started writing to them. And I'm like, where are you? How are you? And everyone was looking for a way out, as you know. And everyone was contacting anyone they thought might be of help. And then I thought, how can I help them? And then you think, you're so far away. I was in Europe. What could I do? I don't really know what to do. But just expressing sympathy isn't really like helping them at all, And Afghans are smart. They're like, okay, thank you very much. I'm so sorry for you. I feel so bad for you. That doesn't help anybody. Everyone was looking for a route out of Afghanistan at that time. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe I should try somehow. Maybe I have some ideas. Maybe if I got together with a group of friends of mine, we could come up with some ideas. And I did. I got together with a group of girlfriends of mine, friends who didn't know anything. Like I at least have been to Afghanistan. They had to they had to go to the store, buy a map and put it on their wall to understand what we were talking about when we were talking about borders and how to get out of Afghanistan. But because women are the greatest and my girlfriends are the greatest, we just thought of one idea after another. And, there were a lot of plans that didn't work out. But slowly, we started moving out first not all, but some of the group that I knew, and then their sisters and their family and their brothers and their fathers and their children and this and this. And then it grew and grew and grew. And by the end, after I spent months and months working on this, we had moved about 350 people out of Afghanistan, across the border to Tajikistan, or we flew out of Mazar to Tajikistan in one case, or out of Pakistan in another case. And then the groups that we evacuated went to Abu Dhabi, where there were people staying, and then the largest group went to Albania.
So can you share your experiences as a journalist in Afghanistan and someone who has reported from different regions? How was that and how do you compare it to Afghanistan?
I'm very, I would say courageous, and my mom would say stupid. Like I don't get fearful quickly. So I would have just walked around on my own, but the New York Times wouldn't allow me.
Okay.
So everywhere I went, I had to leave within half an hour. And I had a tracer, like a little beeper, so they always knew where I was. And I didn't go alone. I went with security and with a car. That's also not a real way to have conversations, especially if you want to interview women and you're coming with behind you with two security people. It's not like casual. You don't... and also a lot of times when you're interviewing, it takes a long time to get to anything which is true and meaningful, especially if you're asking anything sensitive. At first people will say, and especially in Afghanistan where people don't like to, tell their secrets. It's not like Americans who tell you, and how their relationship with their boyfriend is when you meet them after 1 second. In Afghanistan, you could talk to someone for 2 hours, not know if they're married. People don't like saying, So it takes a long time. So it's hard to maneuver that way. It was also really hot. I was there in the summer in Herat. It was so hot. And of course I had to dress conservatively and appropriately. And so I was like, I couldn't breathe. And also I was desperate to find a swimming pool, but there was not one swimming pool in Herat that a woman could swim in. In Kabul there was, and I went to the Serena Hotel, although it was wicked expensive, too expensive.
Yeah, too expensive.
And also every time I swam there, I thought of the terror attack that took place there. And I would go back and forth swimming, and the whole time I'm thinking, what would I do? What would I do? Would I dive in the water? Would the bullets go in the water? I mean, it was like a crazy, not pleasant swimming experience because of that, although it's a beautiful hotel and et cetera, et cetera. So those were some of the things. Another thing, though, which was different than any other place, Afghans just are so kind and generous and in terms of inviting strangers in. And I've never eaten so well in any assignment that I've ever been on. It felt like everyone I met, even for 10 minutes, wanted to invite me to eat in their home. And we're so happy that I came. And the food was so amazing.
Okay, how do you see the future of Afghan media evolving in the aftermath of the Taliban's return?
I have friends who worked in Tolo News, and I sort of follow how they're trying to maintain a presence and maintain their ability to work in a country which has so many now new guidelines and expectations. And so it's not a free media. It's not a place where you can freely express yourself or give lots of different opinions. It's also, I think, for women journalists, incredibly difficult. I haven't followed that closely what will be, but clearly, a lot about the Taliban being in control is not good, including for journalism.
Yeah. So in that case, what advice would you give to Afghan female journalists, especially those who are interested in reporting from conflict zones and regions experiencing political upheavals?
Look, the trend of journalism these days, and rightly so, is that the people who can best give you the stories and best explain what's going on and really know what's going on are people from there, who are there. Not people like myself who come in for 1 month or 2 weeks to, Herat or Kabul and see 10 different experts and meet 5 different people on the street and then make a story. That's not... There is a reason for that too, because sometimes you need outsiders' eyes to sort of look at a larger picture. There is that. But I think that more and more sort of citizen journalists or journalists who are in the zone themselves are the ones that get attention and are listened to. Look what's happening in Gaza right now. All the news, the best news, so to speak, best is a hard word to say from there, but all the information that we're getting is from citizen journalists or from Gazan Palestinians who are inside that war zone and are able to to speak out. And also we have now social media, so everyone can be their own brand.
Yeah.
You don't even need to be hired by a newspaper. If you're reporting really well or bringing out information that others aren't bringing out, you might get an audience which grows and grows, and that might make you your own brand, and then some big organization or news group will then want to hire you.
True.
In fact, now there's more opportunities than ever for someone who's not associated with a company, hasn't been hired by anyone, but who has faith in themselves and has something to say, can get out and say it.
So, and our last question, what role do you believe international media organizations should play in supporting Afghan journalists and preserving press freedom in the country?
Look, I think that's a really great question. I think what happens in the world, it's not against Afghanistan, but what happens is that everyone gets really excited or interested or inflamed about a certain storyline or conflict. For a moment in time, it was Afghanistan. And then soon, a couple months after that, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine happened. So everyone's attention went to Ukraine, right? And then now everyone's attention is on Gaza.
Yeah.
By the way, people in Syria, no one's paid them attention for a very, very long time. And it's a sad statement, both on media and our attention spans and the world, that we shift like that, because there is no press freedom right now in Afghanistan, and women's voices are not being heard in Afghanistan. They're being heard maybe outside of Afghanistan, but there's a lot lacking in Afghanistan, and there's not enough attention and pressure, I think, and help being given to women on the ground or journalists in general on the ground in Afghanistan. And I think it very much would behoove the international community and the community of journalists and people in media outside the country to try and lend that hand. Another thing that's happened with Afghanistan, which is a little bit unfortunate, is the Taliban are smart enough, or there are people within the Taliban, to want to try and make a kind of good impression on the West. And they've done that in part by sort of being even more open, actually, to foreign journalists than ever before. So all kinds of foreign journalists can go to Afghanistan. I could go to Afghanistan. And you quickly get interviews with the Taliban. You might go driving around and see how things are going in the provinces very well. No corruption, security is better, stuff like that. And you get almost positive stories about the Taliban in the West, which people who are in Afghanistan are very angry about. So that's a whole other problem. And that goes back to my other point about that the people in Afghanistan, Afghans, and especially Afghan women, journalists, are the ones that should be telling the story and what's really going on there. And those are the voices that we should listen to and trust the most. So I encourage anyone who is that person to find a way and find the courage and but do securely and tell us what's going on.
So thank you so much for your time. It was really nice talking to you.
It was the best talking to you. Thank you very much.
We are grateful for Donna's words and for shedding light on the challenges faced by Afghan women, especially journalists. Her contributions are invaluable, and her dedication to making a difference is truly inspiring. And to all our listeners, thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. Through the stories of Afghan women journalists, we have witnessed resilience and courage in the face of adversity. Let's carry their strength forward, spreading hope and amplifying their voices. Your support means everything. Until next time, let's continue this journey together, united in our quest for empowerment and change.